I have to admit, before digging into this material from SMA Worldwide, my view of logistics was, pretty basic.
Oh,
Box A goes to point B, it all felt very transactional. But reading these documents, that definition just feels completely wrong.
well, it is. I mean, for moving a T-shirt, sure, that's A to B. But SMA operates in a totally different world.
Right.
They talk about it less as transportation and more as consequence management.
Mm.
When you look at their work in the UK and Europe, you realize the speed of the delivery is often way less important than the integrity of what's inside.
That word integrity, it came up so many times in their pharma and life sciences stuff. It sounds a bit like corporate jargon at first, but then you read the detail.
It's not jargon at all. It's physics. Think about the cold chain.
Okay.
This isn't just, throwing a few ice packs in a box.
Yeah.
We are talking about maintaining an exact temperature, often deep freeze, without a single blip for maybe 48 hours across multiple countries.
And the source material really highlights the stakes there. If a pair of trainers gets delayed, you've got an unhappy customer. But here they say logistics is literally part of the scientific process.
That's the core idea, exactly. Imagine a neuroscience lab has spent, say, 3 years developing a unique set of biomedical samples. They're one of a kind.
Irreplaceable.
Totally irreplaceable. And if the logistics fail, if the temperature spikes by 2 degrees because someone didn't check a gauge, those samples are ruined. You haven't just lost a package.
You've lost 3 years of data.
You've erased it. And you just can't get that time back.
So they're not really paying for movement. They're paying to preserve the research. Reliability is almost a form of care.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which, brings us to the other end of the spectrum.
Industrial side.
Yeah. Away from fragile science to the heavy stuff.
Yeah.
Automotive, aerospace. The documents making clear the stakes are just as high, but the enemy isn't temperature, it's timing.
And this is where that term just in time comes into play, right? I've heard it a lot, but what does it actually look like?
Well, it means that a modern car factory doesn't have a giant warehouse full of parts anymore. It's too expensive.
Okay.
They basically treat the delivery truck as the warehouse. That specific component is meant to arrive just as the assembly line robot is ready to install it.
Which sounds incredibly efficient until, I don't know, there's a crash on the M25.
That is the absolute nightmare scenario, because if that truck is late, the factory doesn't just slow down, it stops cold.
A line stoppage.
A line stoppage. And in aerospace or automotive, shutting down a production line can cost tens of thousands of pounds per minute.
So a single missing bolt isn't just an annoyance.
It's a financial hemorrhage. It's a systemic failure. That's why the SMA documents are so clear that for these clients, a 99% success rate is basically a failure. You need absolute certainty.
That leads to what I found most surprising in all of this. In an industry that's all about tracking tech, AI, and drones, SMA Worldwide seems to be going all in on the human element. It feels almost backward.
It does feel that way.
Yeah.
Until something goes wrong. Technology is fantastic for tracking. It can tell you precisely where the problem is. But an algorithm can't negotiate with a stressed-out customs agent. And a piece of software can't make a judgment call to reroute a sensitive shipment during a blizzard.
So the tech gives you the data, but the human provides the accountability.
Yes. When you're shipping something really high-value confidential prototypes, maybe you need what's called a chain of trust. You need to know that a specific person is watching your shipment and can solve problems before they become disasters.
It turns it from a transaction into a partnership.
That's the whole point.
Yeah.
It's interesting. We usually think of a premium service as being faster, right?
Yeah, of course.
But here, premium means it's invisible. It means the client never even has to think about the logistics because the trust is just there.
So for anyone listening who might be managing these kinds of high-stakes supply chains where, sorry, just doesn't cut it. The source we've been deep diving into is SMA Worldwide. You can find them at smallworldwide.com.
Or true to that human element, you can actually call them.
That's right. The number is 0192-329-0490. It really does change how you see a simple delivery van on the road. We just see a vehicle. But it's part of a huge, complex chain keeping things running.
It is. And it leaves you with a thought, doesn't it? We're building a world that requires faster, more precise, more fragile logistics every single day.
Mm-hmm.
We treat it as invisible, but what happens to our society when that care stops?
Something to think about. Thanks for listening.